Alright, how's it going everybody? Daybreaker Rein coming to you through your video scope with yet another episode of Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Last time in the last episode, we got through the machine tower, and I believe that gave us the wall kick ability, so it'll be to the Eternal Corridor, I believe, from here. So, sorry it's been kind of a bit, guys. I kind of had this thought about myself that I was going to have, at least day-to-day content uploading. I realized that there's a lot of games I want to cover, so it's best that I can crank out as much of these as I possibly can, you know, of course, before I start doing any of the other Let's Plays. So I'm going to try my best to stay more on top of this. I do know it didn't take me, the last time I played through this, it didn't take me very long to get through the game, but I definitely do want to try to stay on top of it as much as I can. But God, I thought for a minute that was a hidden thing, and I'm just wearing leather armor, right? I think that's actually better. Yes, it is for the time being, until I find something that says otherwise. So, okay, so as you can see, the machine tower does connect back to the abyssal stairway, so we'll go ahead and make our way through here and try to get back to the place where we need to be. I thought for sure that those guys would die in like a couple hits. I know in Magician mode, since your stats are much weaker, they're a lot harder to kill. Yeah, because there's a couple things that'll be uploaded today. Like I said, there will be playthroughs, and all playthroughs will continue until I am done with the game, and then I won't be uploading any more playthroughs until the other ones are finished, because I like the idea of having 5 playthroughs going on kind of at the same time, so that way there's enough content to keep people busy, keep people occupied. More than enough, you know. So my plan is, for this at least, is that I will play through Circle of the Moon, I will play through the rest of Mega Man 8, the rest of Demon's Crest, Legend of Zelda, and Shadow Warrior, and then as those get completed, I won't be replacing them with new ones until I finish the other ones. So I'm assuming, like I said in one of my other videos, I believe Shadow Warrior will probably take me the longest. Considering the levels are lengthy. Granted, I'm trying my hardest to not go out of my way for secrets in that playthrough, because that can take up a large portion just trying to backtrack and find secrets. So I'm going to hopefully not do that as much. So I need to figure out exactly, okay, yeah, it's back that way. So, best thing to do, wait. Best thing to do would be to go, okay, yeah, just have to drop down. I actually do have, I'm pretty sure, more than likely, I will be covering more Castlevanias. For the moment, since I don't have a capture card to do any of the console Castlevanias, and I really have to just resort on emulators, for the most part, I probably will be covering the PlayStation 2 games eventually. It'll probably be the Xbox version of Curse of Darkness, because that's the one I have, actually. If I can ever get around to getting the money for a capture device, that'll definitely be something that I pursue and look into. So for the time being, I'm stuck with pretty much the easier to emulate Castlevanias. I do plan to do a 2-part playthrough of a couple of these Castlevanias. So, like, for one, I'm not going to play the PS1 version of Symphony. I'm actually going to do the Saturn version. And I'm going to do Alucard's campaign, and then I'm going to also play through the game a second time as Maria, to kind of give it more variety, because Maria does play so radically different in that specific version of the game as opposed to her counterpart in the remaster of Symphony that's on the Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles. I honestly think now playing her version in Symphony, I really wish they had stuck with that version for adding Maria in a mode. I feel like, for one, they did like a almost completely revised sprite for Maria. While it looks nice, it kind of almost looks out of place because they didn't remaster Richter's or Alucard sprites. Not that there's really much more you can do with them. I mean, I'm sure that there are ways that you could HD the character out to make it more look like to fit in with Maria. Maria just looks so out of place in comparison to both Alucard and Richter sprites. Okay, I think the Fire Demon will be a little bit easier to take on. I was actually, I had just gotten to this area with my Magician playthrough, and it is definitely not easy. Granted, you have all the power-ups right at the beginning, and you have a ridiculous amount of MP, but your HP suffers so much. Enemies that don't take as much HP in the later levels take a lot out of your health bar. Even in later levels of the game, like when you become, like, you know, level 45 and so on and so forth. I forget what... Okay, yeah. That might help, just to kind of speed things up a bit, I guess. But so far, I want to do 2 playthroughs for the Japanese version of Symphony of the Night that's exclusive to Saturn, and then I also intend to do a 2-parter for Legacy of Darkness. I plan to play through Cornell's campaign and Reinhardt's campaign. I won't play through Henry's campaign just because it's really not... I might dedicate a whole episode to it if people ask, just because it's a really, really super easy thing to get through, honestly. It's very, very simple. Because basically Henry's version, or his portion of the game, essentially acts as a sort of mini game, if you will, to unlock special things that were you know, like different stuff that you unlock, and it is all dependent on how well you do. And I'm pretty sure, just for the sake of unlocking everything, I looked up where the children were that you have to save. But I might dedicate a whole episode to it if it comes to it, because it should be something that shouldn't take me very long to get through. I might end up, as well, I don't think you can go this way yet, yeah. I'm also thinking as well to... I might do Carrie's playthrough, just for completionist's sake, and I might do Richter's in Symphony. I don't want to spend too long on each game because that will just make the playthroughs like ridiculously long. I mean, but granted, I mean, I would sort it in a way to let you guys know like what playthrough is which, and you know, that way in the playlist, it's like if you want to jump to a specific playthrough and much rather watch that footage as opposed to, you know, maybe Alucard's footage, because you know, the gameplay in Symphony on the Saturn version is no different than the gameplay from the original PlayStation 1 version. It's just the added areas and the added content, such as Richter's alternate costume and things of that nature. Okay, I need to actually go to the other warp because it's closer to a save point. But it's something I'm considering. Like, I do have full intents to do Cornell and Reinhardt, at least for Legacy of Darkness, and Alucard and Maria. The Maria footage specifically because, again, like I said, she's so radically different from the counterpart that they put in the remastered version. So I definitely like to get that footage out there because I'm not sure if there's a whole lot of playthroughs of her out there. I don't know a lot of people if they've gotten their hands on the Japanese Symphony. It unfortunately does command quite a high price for a physical. I'm very lucky to have gotten the ability to work with a Saturn emulator that I actually got managed working. The funny thing is that I'm using an older version of the Saturn emulator that has been worked on, and that emulator seems to work far superior to the current build that's available, which is weird because you would think that with current builds that the emulator would be more reliable. I did have to go through quite the process to actually get that working. There's quite a couple of things you need to do in order for Saturn emulation to work as properly as it does, and for the sakes of what I've done with it. Oh, okay, yeah. I keep forgetting that actually goes to the underground waterway. It's kind of dumb that it points to it, like the like title of it shows up, because it's like you're not able to go to that area just yet, like through that entryway. I keep forgetting about that too, because like I always want to make it like make an effort to where the name of the level shows up when you actually get to the level, the proper way, like through the actual proper entrance. Because as far to my knowledge, there's no way to enter that level from that side at your current state. You have to go through quite a bit before you can actually enter it through that side. Or even exit from that side, if I remember right, because I think you need the super jump ability. Yeah, flame armors aren't such a big deal anymore. Yeah, I forget how radically different Magician mode is. Like, you really don't notice it until you start playing it, how hindered you are to actually try to fight most of the stronger enemies that take more hits. You're gonna be there a little bit, because while I'm taking 33 now, you know, in Magician mode I was only taking like 17s. And that may not sound like a huge detriment, but it really does start taking its toll after a while. Well, I'm glad I'm getting items for healing my heart if I used my sub-weapon more often, but it really, like, it's just like one of those weird things that, like, I don't feel like I use my sub-weapon often enough, and even if I do, you know, there's plenty of candles that respawn throughout the castle, so there's more than enough opportunity to get your hearts back if you spam your sub-weapon, which, if you do play shooter mode, you're gonna end up spamming your sub-weapon quite often, because it's pretty much your most reliable thing, because not only do you get the reduced cost of using your sub-weapon, I do believe the sub-weapons are actually a lot stronger in shooter mode, damage-wise, so the cross ends up doing far more damage than it did before, if you play any of the other modes. But yeah, as for, I'm probably going to cover the other Castlevanias on Game Boy Advance. I don't know if I will go back to the older ones, the old linear style ones. I might play Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge on Game Boy. That one and Legends, I really do like. Castlevania Adventure is alright. Like, I like it for what it's worth, but I like what was established more in Belmont's Revenge, that you kind of have your choice of how you want to play the levels, and you're not restricted to just one linear path. Now, Legends, Castlevania Legends is very linear. You don't have any sort of say on the path that you choose. I think it's kind of like, if I remember, I think it plays a lot like Castlevania 3, where there are certain points where you get to choose a level to go to, and depending on, like, get you a different outcome. Like, I know that in Castlevania 3, the different levels get you potentially different characters, because you can actually play as different characters, because you get to play as Alucard, Sypha, and Grant. Yeah, but definitely if I get around to Curse of Darkness, I will be doing probably 2 playthroughs of that, where I play through as Hector, and then I play through the game as the optional character Trevor Belmont. Because that is probably one of my all-time favorite redesigns, is I love how Trevor looks in that game. They did an alright job with his redesign in Judgment, I know a lot of people kind of harp on that game. I have my gripes with it too. I don't necessarily think it's a god-awful game. Like, I don't think it's, like, the worst Castlevania. Like, honestly, I refrain that judgment for, and people might kind of get mad at me for this, but I refrain that judgment for the Lords of Shadows games. And I know people are probably going to get really mad at me for saying that, but, you know, that's just how I feel. Like, call me nostalgic, call me traditionalist. That's why I think Bloodstained is going to rock the shit, and it's going to make Konami a bunch of salty motherfuckers, because Bloodstained is going to give Castlevania fans, true Castlevania fans, what they wanted from the get-go. What Konami refused to do, because that's essentially what they've done. They've refused to go back and visit the original style, and I know a lot of people will say, well, Mirror Fate, you know, Lords of Shadow, Mirror Fate, but it's still, it played more like a beat-em-up than it did a Metroidvania. You know, you've got this insane combo crap that you can do with your whip. I hate what they did to Simon. I hate his redesign. I hate his character. Simon is one of the most notable Belmonts, probably next to Richter, that a lot of people know, because Simon had so many games dedicated to him. Because you not only play as Simon in the original Castlevania, Simon's Quest is all about Simon, and then also Super Castlevania 4, although a lot of people say that, I know, Castlevania 4 is considered a reboot, like a remake of the first Castlevania. I really don't... I think I would be more inclined to believe that if the level design stayed similar, and it really doesn't. Like, you don't get to the castle till probably, like, maybe 75% through the game, and you're not in the castle very long before you end up reaching Dracula's throne room. So, if it stayed in the same vein, I think I would be more inclined to believe that it is a successor, like a remake, a reboot, whatever you want to call it. God, this is really bad. I hate the curse stat, and unfortunately, I've just now gotten to a point where enemies will start dropping uncursed potions, and like every other item in the game, it's all based on luck, so it's like, you know, I might not even get the luxury of having a uncursed potion show up right away. But yeah, I think my problem, for one, like, a lot of people had problems with Lords of Shadow right away because it bared too many semblances to God of War. And I need to, like, just haul ass and just go, because I'm probably going to end up getting killed. And that would really, really suck, because then, like, all that progress I made, I think the save point is right up in this room. Okay, phew. I think, I do remember a lot of people not liking Lords of Shadow because of its striking similarities to God of War. Some people said that the entire first half of the game is god-awful, and then the second half is amazing. I never gave it much time to actually get that far. And I know a lot of people are going to jump on me for that. Well, why are you criticizing a game you haven't beat? Well, I played a good portion of it, and I didn't like what I played. So I looked up more in depth into what they did to the story and how much they altered it. And I don't like what they did with the story. Like, I think it really, it pretty much retcons, like, because again, I know that the Lords of Shadow games were supposed to, in quotes, be a reboot to the series, but I don't feel Castlevania ever needed a reboot. Like, and you know what? That's kind of why I'm glad, you know, like, Konami's too focused to give true Castlevania fans what they want. Instead, they'll hide behind the Pachinko machine demographic. They did that with Metal Gear fans too. So, you know, they'll hide behind that, and they'll say, oh, well, that's your new Castlevania, is a Pachinko machine that's only located in Japan, and that's the only way you're ever going to be able to play it, unless for some god-awful reason MAME is, you know, I know MAME emulates some of those things, so I mean, for whatever reason, I guess if they got MAME up and running and working with the pachinko machine versions of these, you know, quote-unquote games, you know, this Metal Gear Solid 3 and this Castlevania one, what was it called? Erotic Violence? Isn't that what the Castlevania one's called? The official name? And there we go with my phone again. I keep forgetting to mute that damn thing. But yeah, I don't know. I just, like, Lords of Shadow rubbed me the wrong way. I like, in premise, the idea of the combat being more fluent, because I will admit at times with Curse of Darkness and Lament of Innocence, even though I love those games far more than I will ever give Lords of Shadow praise, the combat can at times drag on, it feels. So I do get that, the combat being more fluent, but even then, it feels more combo-centric in Lords of Shadows, much like God of War, so it feels like the combat may be more fluent animation-wise, but it feels like it drags on probably even more than it did in Curse of Darkness and or Lament of Innocence. And then, even with this Pachinko machine, someone had brought it up that Richter, although is like the main Belmont in this Pachinko machine Erotic Violence, apparently he's got a combat cross, which from any standpoint doesn't make sense because that was Gabriel's whole gimmick, but unless Konami's just stupid and they figure, oh, we'll just make the combat cross the new vampire killer, which is stupid. I've pretty much, like, I hate jumping on the Konami hate train, but I've pretty much given up all hope that there will ever release a Castlevania game like the old ones. Iga's not with them anymore, so even if they did, I don't think it would be nearly, it would have nearly the, what's the word I'm looking for, the style that the other Metroidvania style Castlevanias gave the series. Like, even if they tried to go back to the original style, I still don't think it would be nearly as successful. Not only that, I don't think anybody in this modern age, except warm, fuzzy nostalgia fans, would even give that style of game the time of day, and I think that's why they did a lot with Lords of Shadows. And I do know, guys, that I am past the 20-minute mark. I just looked at the timer because I go on tangents. I'm going to try to get to the next save point, because I think it's right outside the boss chamber. And then I'll cut it there, and we'll focus on the boss in the next part. Okay, well, cool. I got an uncursed potion. Okay, yeah, I think I can't go down that way, so I gotta just pray I can get through all this. At least I think there's a save point. Yeah, I think that's it right there. But let me just kind of wrap up what I was saying. I think in this day and age, it is too much of a trial to go back to an older style, because the reason I believe Lords of Shadow came out to be the way that it was is because of the fact that God of War was such a success, that was probably Konami's only way that they felt that they could even sell the damn series. So that's just my 2 cents on it, you know, and I know that, you know, there are people who like the Lords of Shadow games. Storyline-wise, I don't know how you could even appreciate that, considering how much was originally established with all the other Castlevania games. I don't think the story needed a reboot. I don't think it needed a revise. You know, I don't think that the series in general should be a third-rate God of War clone, you know. But that's just my 2 cents. Anyways, guys, this will be it for episode 4. Went on a little bit longer than I had hoped. In the next episode, we will take on the boss of the Eternal Corridor and or the Chapel, and we will try to make it to the next area. Again, I don't know if I'll be able to reach the boss. I think I ran into this problem last time, if I remember right, where I got to the point where some of the levels became a little bit longer, and so I had to actually, you know, take my time a little bit more and end up doing boss fights in other episodes. But anyways, guys, this has been Daybreaker Rein, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. Take it easy, guys.